right, so let's get into how I, who at 27 packed my bags, moved to South Africa. Then after that, moved to Ghana, only to get a year in and be like, is this gonna work? Do your sister have enough coins to make this thing work? Hello and what's up, everybody? So today I'm gonna hit y'all with a little story time of how I almost went broke after just 1 year of living in Ghana, and I almost had to pack my bags up again and kick it back to the US. So, if you are new to this channel, I am Nzali and I help Black millennial women create the life that they deserve while living on the African continent. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please go ahead, hit the subscribe button, make sure you like and comment. Also, hit that bell notification button so that you can be alerted anytime that I upload new content. I'm going to go ahead and start it off. I'm not going to use the names of the actual people that are involved in the story, but I like make up names or something like that. So, yeah, let me just go ahead and tell y'all the naked truth. I almost did make it. I almost did not make it. So when I was doing my planning to come to Ghana, I did run across information that said that you have to pay your rent for like a year in advance. So I was aware that I needed to pay my rent for a year. Cool. So I came how many months was it? I came in December to do like a scouting of what prices were like, right? So that I could then have a better understanding of what I would be paying once I got to Ghana the next year. So when I did that, I also met a lot of different people. So I met a good friend of mine, which let's call him Kofi. All right, and I'm going to use Ghanaian names. So let's call him Kofi. All right, so I met a good friend of mine named Kofi when I was here during December because, I like doing community service, and he ran a community service organization. So once I told him, no, I'm not just coming to visit during the December holiday, but I really am trying to move to Ghana, he was like, oh, you could do some work with our organization. And I was like, cool, no problem. And so through the conversations, what I discovered was that they were looking to rent a space. So I'm like, okay, you need a space for rental, to store items, and I need a place to live. So why don't we just come together, put our money together, and I could be living in this space, and we could use some of the other rooms to store some of the material. So keep going. His wife ended up being transferred to Accra. So let's call his wife, I don't know, Afia. Okay, so his wife Afia ends up being transferred to live in Accra. So then it became, side note, he didn't live in Ghana at the time. So Kofi didn't live in Ghana, but his wife was still in Ghana. So it became then, all right, so you and my wife Afia will share the space together, and then another room will be used to store the items for the charity. Perfect. Put our money together, boom, paid a year down. Great. I'm on the flight, getting it, living it in Ghana, not thinking about rent. Okay, I was not thinking about my rent because, again, I had already paid for a year. And then when I was thinking about my rent, I was like, oh, Afia and I are living together, my friend Kofi's wife. So next year we'll go in on rent again. Tragic mistake. So when all of that happened, we were getting closer and closer to the end of the lease. Then his wife, Afia, was transferred again, I believe, or something happened where she just wasn't going to be in Accra and didn't really require the space anymore. And the storing of the items, they were really looking at having a bigger space. So both of those options didn't work for me because, number one, she wasn't looking for a roommate anymore. And then number two, the bigger space that they were looking for wasn't something that I was like prepared to do at that time. I was kind of like nervous, like security wise and things like that. So moral of the story is I've been in Ghana for a year now. The money I was putting aside was under the guise that I would have this roommate that would be splitting, roommate slash organization that would be splitting my next year's rent with me. Now that was not happening. And again, in Ghana, you have to pay a year up front. And so I'm sitting there like, where am I going to get this year's worth of rent? Like, how is this going to happen? And I think another like mistake that I made during that time was like, because I was like fresh off of my experience with South Africa, I was still kind of like looking at Ghana's economy through a South African gaze. And so the South African rand was a lot more stable, even though the conversion rate was larger, it just was more stable than that in Ghana. So I think, comparison is the devil's best friend, right? So I think by me comparing how I was able to maneuver in South Africa versus Ghana really did kind of also set me up for the downfall when I was at my year breaking point. Okay. It's also important to note that when I was living in South Africa, I was working for a federal government program. That was a completely different experience now that I look back at it. Okay, so like the next thing that happened throughout the course of that year of me staying with Kofi's wife, Afia, then I also like stopped teaching online. So I think I told you all that when I first came to Ghana, I was teaching English through like an ESL platform, 51 Talk. And so that was bringing in about like $800 a month, which was good. Like that was enough for me to live well, do everything, go out to eat, go to the club, hit up Osu, donate money, everything that I wanted to do. So and that was back in the day, that's not now. $800 can't get you much in Ghana now in 2022. But at that time, that was cool. It was good salary for a single independent woman. So I stopped teaching online because the house that we were renting in that area, the Vodafone connection for internet was not good. And so that was something that I did not know. So I was using Vodafone, not knowing that I needed like a better internet service provider. So if you've ever taught with ESL courses online, they charge you when you miss a class if your connection is bad. So I ended up losing more money than I was making. So I was like, let me just let this go, because I had started tutoring at the language school, tutoring for the homeschooling network. So the cautionary moment here was that I quickly became reliant on the CD, and the CD was not going to maintain the lifestyle that I wanted, because baby, I did not come to Ghana to cash in my life and get a struggle bus ticket. That was not me. I wanted to go out to eat. I want to go to the club. I want to go have fun. I want to go on trips. I want to go to the nice beaches. Like I want to do everything, right? And so because I quickly transitioned from being dependent on the dollar to being dependent on the CD, I got like a major reality check really, really fast, because I didn't have enough rent money to have a single apartment, and I needed somewhere to live, and I only was bringing in CDs at that point. And so it was just kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, reality check. But what I will say is that through that experience, one of the things that I learned was, in a previous video, I mentioned like really trying to like build your community and how important community was, and how important being connected or tapped into the expat or the repat community could be for you in this space. So because I had been working at the homeschool network, I had been tutoring and, just kind of meeting a lot of people. Number one, I was able to find housing. One of the parents who became like one of my really, really good sister friends here, I'll call her Amma. So Amma, the parent of some students that I was tutoring or teaching, she had an extra room at her house and was like, oh, you can rent from me, sis. I'm like, great. Another Black American. So it was like very familiar. We had the same understandings. We liked the same things. So I was able to still take what I was making in CDs and then be able to pay her. And she even offered me to pay like month to month, which was like amazing because you don't find that in Ghana. So it was really my diasporan community that kind of swooped in and helped the sister out so that I didn't have to go back to the US after only being in Ghana for 1 year. In addition to that, I was able to take one of my consultancy contracts and turn it into permanent employment. And so I believe also in another video I mentioned being able to quickly turn your skills into cash. So because when I got here, I immediately started selling off my skills and my knowledge, I already had a consultancy contract that was only supposed to be like 6 months or something like that. And when I got to that point where money was getting a little funny, I proposed that, I stay on in a permanent position. And so that also helped me then parlay into a stable amount of currency that would come in for me in the country. And I was working at an international school at that time, so the pay was, it was kind of okay for the time frame that we were in. So, moral of the story is the ancestors was on my side, and a little bit of hustle ethic, work ethic kind of helped the sister get through that rough patch, as well as being able to lean in on my diaspora community. So again, if this is content that you like, go ahead, put a comment below. Let me know if you're interested in moving to one of these West African or overall African countries, how you can set up business, how you can turn your skills into cash flow in these spaces, and then also what's your exodus date. Don't forget again to subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Nzali Takes Africa. Until next time, bye y'all.